Is life tough for you? Some people definitely have it really tough, really hard. Everybody has some toughness, but that's a relative thing. Like some are really have it easy. But there's always challenges. And Jesus, by the way, I wanted to let you know, and this is why I brought it up, Jesus had a ton of toughness come against him while he was on earth. Who knows what it was like before the age about 30. I think he was 32 when he was baptized, but, whatever, it was about 30. Definitely the Bible says that in Luke chapter 3. But he went through a ton of stuff during his ministry. He was challenged and he was a target. And a lot of times the more threat that you become of the devil and his kingdom, and you're really living for God, you become a target. But that doesn't mean you should shrink from that and pull back from it. He didn't at all. He did not let that control him, and so you should neither. And so when you go through tough times as a Christian, just rejoice and thank the Lord. You're doing something for God, and Jesus and all the apostles went through it, I'm sure. Some of them it's described in the book of Acts, and the persecution actually sprung on all the Christians and all that. So after Jesus was raised from the dead. And from that day to this, people are still going through horrendous, horrible things as a Christian. There are people giving their lives. I read of them. I know there's Christians in prisons. I prayed for them today, by the way. The Christians, my brothers and sisters are in prisons because of standing up for Jesus. Jesus went through some tough stuff. The next two stories, which could have happened actually at this time, or it could have happened like Mark put them together, sort of like a split screen. You watching a movie and or something like I read this cool writer who said you have a golfer, a great golfer, and you have another golfer. They're really great. They're on different holes, and they split the screen and they show the screen, and then they show them both at the same time. It's kind of what Mark is maybe doing. He's putting the stories together, maybe, or it actually maybe had it happen in this actually way it happened. It doesn't matter. They're true stories. However it happened like this. What happened is Jesus pulled away, as we know, went to the mountain, and then he named his disciples and all. And then it says he entered a house, and it could be described as going home. But what house was it? Did he go back to Nazareth? I seriously doubt it. The house is talking about, like I think it's Matthew 9:1 that mentions that he made this city his home, his house. I think it was probably Andrew and Peter's house again. The one that they broke up the ceiling of, the one that it was pretty large. I've drawn a picture in one of my past videos of what it actually probably looked like. It was like all these angles in several rooms. Maybe Peter and Andrew weren't all that poor fishermen. Maybe they had a good trade going. Well, it says he entered a house, I think is probably their house. And he went back to Capernaum, in other words. And again, a crowd gathered. I like that. And that's what I wish it would happen today. Crowds should be filling churches. Crowds should be entering all the time to learn about him and to get close to him. That's one way of getting close to him, is going to church. And so, oh my goodness, go as much as you can, as you possibly can. Anyway, crowds gathered around him. Well, of course. He was very popular, becoming popular. He wasn't into trying to be popular. He just became it. Why? Because he was healing everybody. He was touching people's lives and delivering them. Oh, and that's what should be happening nowadays. We should see the exciting power of Jesus Christ displayed all the time. I think it's a lack of prayer and a lack of getting close to him and hanging with him is our problem. But anyway, it says, and again a crowd gathered so that he and his disciples were not even able to eat. I don't think it's because of the room and the space there, like they couldn't recline. I think it's because they were so busy. Okay, here's another person. Okay, I heal you, and then he's teaching and he's healing this person. Another come out from it. Just he was so busy. It was an exciting time, a life of busyness. I personally believe as Christians we should have a life of busyness. Really busy for Jesus, taking the hours and the minutes of our days as much as we can, and sharing and loving people and helping people and writing cards to people, letters to people, talking to people, sharing, praying a lot. All right, so it says here they were not even able to eat. That's how busy. And people are like that. Like even in business, people are like that. Sports players are like that. Dancers are like that. There's hours and hours and hours, and they're really doing it. Especially this. This is definitely what we should be like. Now here's where the challenge comes in. Now this version says family. This version's over here, if you can see it, the King James Version, I love this. It says friends. Friends or family, who is it? What, maybe family meaning relatives, or was it the close family? Personally, I think it's probably the close family, maybe friends involved in that too. But the actual Greek words mean this. See, I cross this out again. Original Greek, in the actual Greek here, it says, they who were of him. They who were of him. Or down here, another way of saying it, those from the side of him. Like people obviously on his side, on his friends. Or they who were of him could be family. So I'm not sure if it's family or friends. I tend to think it's family because I think it's verse 31 down here lower. Yeah, in 31, his mom and his brothers show up. So I think they were hearing this from Nazareth. They were all the way down in Nazareth. And if I do a quick picture, if you remember, of Nazareth, for those of you who already have seen this, let me draw it on a different board here. By the way, here's another way of saying it, maybe belonging to him. Those who belong to him. What does that mean? Could be friends. Or maybe it's not friends, maybe it's really family. But if you remember where this is, some of you know this pretty well, but I don't know if you're just starting with me. The map goes like this. Okay, this is the sea, the Great Sea, in the Old Testament called the Mediterranean Sea now. Then you have the Sea of Galilee. And in my opinion, this is where and there's River Jordan, and there's Jordan River down here. And this is Galilee here, in this area. Somewhere down here, it goes like this. Anyway, it's Galilee. Nazareth was from here. That's where he grew up, right about there. Can you see that dot? That's Nazareth. And then he was actually in this region a lot, in this area. In my opinion, he went to about that area. Do you see that little X right there? On the Sea of Galilee, the northwest, well, not west, it's mainly northern, a little bit west from the Jordan River. Maybe a couple miles, maybe more. Anyway, so they heard about him and they came up here. They actually came up to him. So maybe that was the mother and brothers, a family who's mentioned a little bit later in this passage. They came up to him and they couldn't get to him because of the crowds. They couldn't even get in the house. He was just teaching like crazy at that point. And so it says, this is what it says. When his family heard about this, this says family, friends, whoever, those who are of him. It says they went and they wanted to not arrest him like a criminal or something, but they wanted to take a hold of him, take charge of him. They wanted him out of that area. They probably wanted him to go back home. And here's what it says, for they said he is out of his mind. He is beside himself. Like he's lost it. He's gone bonkers. He's crazy. He's nuts. Like he's insane now. He's a madman. He went mad. Like loony. All these words you could say. And why did they think that? Well, think about it. Think about this. He was in an obscure little town named Nazareth. Nothing big about that. Nothing popular. Nothing special about it. It was very special now. Jesus came out of that area, out of that town. And then he became this renowned. Everyone's knowing about him and he's doing all these things. Multitudes of people are crowding him now. And he's so busy they can't even eat. I mean, they heard about all this. Word spread big time. They didn't have text messaging and they didn't have phones and even telegraph systems or nothing at that time. It was just word of mouth. But boy, they knew how to talk. And they talked and people were heard about. They were hearing that he was so busy he can't even eat and all that. They said, this guy's going crazy. What's going on? So they came, if it was his friends or his family, came up to him. And here's what their complaint was, basically, I think. I think that this is the main one because it's actually mentioned about his health. Like, you're not even eating. Take care of yourself. His mom comes. I don't believe that she thought he was out of his mind at all. She knew Jesus more than all his townspeople, even his brothers. They didn't really know him. They didn't know who they were dealing with. He was Mr. Goody Sandals. You know how people say goody two shoes. He was Mr. Goody two sandals because, you know, he was always perfect. He was such a good kid all the time, never in trouble. People were jealous. The brothers were jealous. Bible says in John chapter 7, they did not believe in him. I don't know about the sisters. There's at least 2. We don't know how many sisters. 4 brothers, or stepbrothers, really, And so they were concerned, I think maybe because of his health. I think his mom came up because of his health. Like, son, maybe you're a little bit doing too much. Let's pull back. I'm concerned for you. You're not even eating. It's a mother, I don't know. But anyway, she came up. We'll talk about her a little bit later more. But when we get to that verse, but maybe they were concerned about his health. Their complaint was, maybe the friends or the family's complaint was, maybe his trade and security. It's like, you were a carpenter. The Bible describes him as a carpenter. Definitely a carpenter's son from Joseph. And Joseph, by the way, he's not mentioned at all in these passages. He died, I believe. I believe he died younger, like when Jesus was growing up. He was without a dad, a father, a human father. He was with Father God, which you can be too, by the way. But anyway, this his trade, his carpentry, he gave up a job. You left your job. Not much security in that. Security meaning you don't even have money. And how are you living? They're thinking he's kind of crazy. He's running around. How's he getting food? And how can he take care of himself? He's not saving anything. He's just going around, and how can he have any security? They're thinking this guy's gone crazy. He's kind of wild. I think maybe they thought he might have been in somewhat of a danger zone at this point. They gathered the idea, I believe, that he was definitely coming against the Pharisees and the scribes. He was coming against the leadership. He was speaking about them strongly and things that they were not doing right on. He's coming against the status quo. He's breaking through and he's challenging the leadership. And everybody respected these leadership. Like, and they're getting mad. And I think they perceived it. People started realizing, you know what he said? Did you hear what Jesus said? So maybe they thought maybe he was a bit in danger. Maybe they even heard about the Herodians that we talked about coming again. Maybe they thought maybe even the Romans, the guards. There was a garrison at Capernaum. A garrison is a large troop, or at least close to, I think there's one a little bit above that, close to it, where there probably had some soldiers coming in and out, but, he's challenging maybe the Romans. How would that challenge the Romans? He wasn't coming against the government, and he wasn't speaking against them and all. I'll tell you what it was, is the multitudes of people can raise your eyebrows. All these guards, when a mob comes along, policemen, right, going, what's going on here? The Romans could have been like, whoa, I think they were. They definitely took note. Herod Antipas in that area took note. We'll get to that story later. He was realizing he heard about Jesus. So maybe they were thinking that he was a bit in danger. So, these are people who care for him, it looks like. Or basically they're going, what? Leader of the nation? How can he become a leader of the nation? He's a carpenter. We know who Jesus was, so they thought. Or did they? His brothers didn't seem to know. James, and those guys were saying he's mad, he's going crazy. That's his own brother. Yet, by the way, James later, Jesus showed himself to him after the resurrection. He gulped, and maybe he was saved at that time. By then, I don't know, but he became a believer. He wrote the book of James, and he even talked about the tongue, how it's an unruly member. And here he's speaking against his own brother, if that was him. He's a madman. Our brother's crazy. And he was right there. He really didn't know Jesus, did he? So he couldn't be around Jesus. Even Judas Iscariot was around, and he never really got to know Jesus. You could go to church all your life and still not really come to know Jesus. Have an encounter with Jesus, like I've had. Come into contact with him. Experience Jesus. Go after him. Bible says, seek and you shall find. You will find him. So these are some of the thoughts maybe the complaint was why they were coming at him and saying he was a madman. Basically, you could think of it like security, safety, or social status. He didn't seem to have much security now. He didn't have a good paying job. And God yet protected him and provided for him. Safety, he protected him. And he seemed to be not as safe now. Among the religious leaders and also maybe Romans. And the social status, oh my goodness, he's stirring up all sorts of things that's happening here. So he kind of lost status among some of the leaders, and he was beginning to get hatred from them and everything. So I think that's why they probably thought he was kind of crazy. Do you think Jesus is crazy? He's the most sane one there is. Not crazy, not insane. And so it's kind of insane not to come to him. Come to him, give your life to him, follow him, and you'll be secure, you'll be safe, and who cares about societal opinions? Who cares what people think of you? Like, people are like, they don't want to take risks. They go, well, what will people say? That's how people live. And you shouldn't live like, what will people say? The question is, what will God say when you stand before him? When you stand before Jesus Christ, you want to go, I hope I did everything you wanted me to do, Jesus. You know, oh, yeah. So that's what's important here. All right. Great story tucked in there. Mark is the only one to mention it. Matthew, Luke, John doesn't mention this little part here. I like this. When his family heard about this, they went to take charge of him, for they said, he's out of his mind. Now what comes next is way worse. He had two different questions and challenges here. One is that he's crazy, and two, that he's of the devil. And that's the next one that we're going to get to. Mark put these stories together. Maybe it actually happened in order like this, but not sure. Anyway, God bless you if you got something out of that.